Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. Now, recently I posted a somewhat heavy-handed video regarding the Atlas Games threat that was issued through them from their, and I quote, Japanese masters directed at Twitch streamers and YouTubers. As a result of this, I ended up seeing a lot of comments and private messages regarding the topic of platform exclusives, and I realized that I have either not been clarifying my points well enough, or that in general the information behind platform exclusives hasn't been well related, and means it gave me yet another opportunity to soapbox for a while in regards to a practice that is wholly and completely anti-consumer. I simply couldn't resist the chance. Also, I have had some other comments on the seeming oddity of my going through the options menus in my unscripted Is It Worth It series videos, and some people don't necessarily understand why and feel it takes away from the videos, so I'll take a moment to discuss that as well, so please do hear me out until the end. So it seems that a great many people seem to be under the impression that when either myself or other games critics are referring to platform exclusives, we're speaking of merely games that are released for a single platform, and in a sense, that's not an incorrect assumption. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. There are situations where a platform exclusive is neither pro or anti-consumer in nature. It's simply a reality of the situation. Now, more often than not, this occurs when you're dealing with indie developers or smaller teams with a limited budget. A game's development is expensive, and each separate platform runs its own operating system and its own hardware and sets of drivers. Very often, the costs associated with porting a game to another platform can be prohibitively high. This isn't the case with withholding a game or information from the consumer or attempting to dupe them or mislead them in any way. It's an unfortunate happenstance. Also, the primary reason why you see the vast majority of indie titles that are created for PC is that games development engines for PC are readily available and highly inexpensive for those developers. In some instances, like the Unity Personal Edition, it is free for use up until you hit a certain threshold of sales figures. And also, with many indie developers, they're still learning and perfecting their craft. And many times they simply don't know how to port games to other platforms, or they may not have the monetary means to be able to do so. A game's development is not cheap, and it takes a huge investment of time. It's no wonder with many of the startup companies out there that they'll want to concentrate on one platform. It will allow them to perfect their game just that much more and make it a better experience for us. This is not something I would ever object to. It's just the reality of the beast. Now, the primary situation involving platform exclusivity is pretty much reserved to what many critics refer to as console exclusives. But before you close this video out, this is not going to be any form of PC master race bullshit. Microsoft has been making attempts at their own form of exclusivity on PC, and we'll get to that in a moment, as it is it's a slight amount more complicated. The term console exclusives is where Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo pay exorbitant sums of money for either a timed exclusive or full exclusivity to the developers and publishers of that game. Now, this is done by the console manufacturers to help boost sales of their platforms, and for the most part, it works tremendously well. With games like The Last Guardian, Horizon Zero Dawn, or Final Fantasy XV, these games would have all sold well on literally every platform, but due to Sony having their specific hooks into the games, or a cavalcade of dump trucks full of money, many of these games have been limited to the PlayStation platform either through a timed or full exclusive contract. And this was done merely to drive platform sales and maintain relevancy. Now, make no mistake, without game exclusives on consoles, the quote, console wars would be limited to ultra fanboys, and sales of that platform would actually greatly diminish. Now, as I said, I'd heard a great deal of people claiming that PC has far more exclusives than either other console put together, and that's an accurate estimation. New titles for PC outstrip those produced for the consoles by thousands of games per year. However, this isn't through any paid exclusivity. This is through the realities of the indie development scene, both legitimate and perceived. And the reason why we don't see these paid exclusives on PC is because that, as a platform, no single company has created a stranglehold on the system yet. With PC having its choice of operating systems as well as interchangeable hardware and access to third-party distribution such as Steam, GOG, and Green Man Gaming, among others, it is a physical impossibility for any one company to create that platform exclusivity. This also helps keep prices lower on PC than they are for console, and with a greater capability of purchasing games on sale. In regards to that, Microsoft has begun making inroads towards attempting to enforce that exclusivity on PC. Of course, they can't control the hardware, so what Microsoft has begun doing with several of their in-house IPs is to begin promoting cross-platform interconnectivity and have begun releasing games through the Microsoft App Store on Windows and have been doing everything they can to encourage other developers to do so as well. This is what I've called in previous videos as distribution exclusivity, which is the only real way any one company will ever be able to create that stranglehold on the platform that we see with Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation systems. And all of this is extremely anti-consumer. Platform exclusivity is, by the definition that we have laid out here, companies paying developers to limit consumer choice. It serves no benefit to the end user and only serves to enhance sales for those companies. In addition, it furthers the stranglehold we see on consoles that force gamers to make use of those platforms to deal with that particular company's way of doing things in a very much my way or the highway scenario. Xbox's Live membership that is a requirement for the gamer to even access the internet is a perfect example of this. So when you hear a YouTuber complaining about platform exclusivity, this is what they mean. A good deal of it is, of course, frustration about a particular game not being on their preferred system, but for me, it's very much the double dealing that takes place behind the scenes by these companies in order to directly prevent other platforms from gaining access to the title. The very act is the epitome of anti-consumer, and it is not an action that should be condoned or supported. Of course, it most likely will continue to happen as these exclusive titles are the biggest money makers for consoles, and without them, you would see the relevance of the current incarnation of consoles and their business practices go the way of the dodo in favor of more modularized platforms with upgradable hardware, much like that of the PC. And I would see that as a good thing. Every time there's an option for increased choice for the end user, that is the direction we should go with. It is very much that choice that takes power away from the corporations and puts it squarely in the hands of the consumer. And believe it or not, it is this idea of player choice that leads me to our next topic. Why the hell do I spend so much time in the options menu? Now, usually 2, 3, or even 4 minutes is devoted to the options menus of every game. And why? It doesn't enrich the experience of the game, nor does it provide any insights into the game's mechanics or how fun it is. If anything, it detracts from the experience in my video, slowing down the pacing very early on, and it can and will cause some people to simply move on to another video or, heaven forbid, somebody else's video. So why even do it? It doesn't seem to accomplish much at all, and the negatives seem to outweigh the potential gain. Well, there's 2 very important reasons why I do it. The first is to be critical of a title to get yourself into the correct frame of mind that is needed to pay attention as much as possible, be it visual or auditory glitches, frame rate drops, or other bugs. Analyzing the options menu helps to accomplish that for me. Now, some would argue that I could do that before I start recording, and they would be right. However, the second reason is that it speaks volumes about how much attention to detail the developers had with their game. How much did they care about it? How invested were they? Well, the options menu can tell us that. It can very easily be used as a barometer of how the experience is going to go. If there's voice acting, did they bother to break out separate audio sliders? With a first-person experience, did they include an adjustment for field of view? What about resolution settings or anti-aliasing or ambient occlusion? Did they go the extra mile and include a colorblind option? All of these are choices that will allow PC gamers to custom tailor their experience based both on their personal preferences as well as their hardware capabilities. Now, a game with a robust options menu typically shows that the developer actually cared and were willing to put in the extra effort, even if what many would consider the mundane details. It shows that they care, and if the developer honestly cares, it's more likely that we will care about what they've created in return. Whereas a lack of options within the settings menu of the game will more often than not denote a serious lack of concern or effort on the part of the developer, and the vast majority of the time that lack of effort will show through in the rest of the game. Which I should also say something to all those indie developers out there that are watching this, and I know there are more than a few of you that follow my channel. I understand that it is a monumental task to create a video game. It is an amazing investment of time, mental energy, and money to produce a piece of content that, at the end of the day, all you can do is hope that it will be well received by the general public. Don't gloss over your game's options. It is very much a showcase of how much you care about your game that you would invest in attention to detail. Don't use the stock Unity options menu or the stock Game Guru menu. They are terrible and show a lack of professionalism that will leave a bad taste in a person's mouth before they even have a chance to experience your game. You are producing this in a professional format, and we as the consumer have every right to expect a professional product. It doesn't have to be gorgeous or have infinite replayability, but it does have to show thought and effort. Care about your game, and more importantly, show us that you care, and we'll be far more likely to care about it too. Now that is why the options menu is so important to me, and honestly, I don't understand those that don't care about the options menu. But perhaps that's just me. Perhaps I'm just weird. I don't know. But either way, please do let me know your thoughts on platform exclusives, options menus, and their inclusions in my videos, or really anything else for that matter. I love hearing from you all, and I do try to respond to as many as possible. Just remember that even though I may not have responded, there's better than a 90% chance that I've at least read your comment. It's important to me to keep myself grounded and to see what the general consensus is on these topics. So, like I said, please do comment, and while you're at it, don't forget to like the video, and please do drop a share on Twitter, Facebook, or Reddit. That word of mouth is crucial to the growth of my channel. And if you're new here, please do subscribe so you can be alerted whenever new reviews or industry commentary pieces like this one comes out, or even the occasional giveaway or contest, as those sometimes do happen. Also, if you're interested in supporting the channel even further or taking part in the Patreon votes that we have, of which I am working on increasing those to give my patrons more influence on the channel, the link to that is down in the description below, as are links to my Twitter, subreddit, Vote, and Facebook. Please do make use of them. And if you have $1 to subscribe with on Patreon, that goes a lot further than most people believe possible. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and thanks so much for listening to me ramble on about yet another industry topic. I really do appreciate it.